This is absolutely crazy and unbelievable. Crazy changes have been announced on September 18 by IRCC on study permit, post-graduation work permit, and spousal open work permit. These updates, these changes, these new measures just literally changes everything, all your plans, guys. You need to watch this entire video to understand what is going on. These new measures do impact current international students and future international students. In this video, we're going to talk about the announcement and literally everything in detail. What is it that new measure is all about? What changes they are making, from when it's going to be implemented, how is it going to impact you as future international students or current international students, post-graduation work permit holders, the spousal open work permit holders, or the future potential PGWP and SOWP holders. So please watch this video till the end and let's get started. One little request before I begin this video: make sure that you subscribe to this channel and hit the bell icon if you haven't done it already, in order to stay updated with all latest Canada immigration related news, updates, programs, etc. Significant changes have been made to Canada's study permit program, post-graduation work permit, and spousal open work permit. Unfortunately, these changes mean international students will face additional measures aimed at limiting the number of study permits in the coming years. It appears these changes reflect a new normal for studying in Canada. However, there is still some hope for those wishing to pursue education and work opportunities in Canada. These new restrictions may come as a surprise, especially considering the recent negative press surrounding Canada's student program. However, Immigration Minister Mark Miller has explained that these measures are necessary to align the number of temporary residents with the government's target of 5%. With that being said, it's not all bad news, okay? International students who wish to study in Canada may still have the opportunity to do so. In fact, these changes could make it easier for students to find work during their studies after graduation. The catch here is that the application process is likely to become more complex, making early planning more crucial than ever. Now let's dive into the announced changes and what they mean for international students currently studying in Canada, as well as those considering to study here in the future. Let's first take a look at some key takeaways. Significant increase in temporary residents. Well, Canada's temporary resident population surged from 437,000 in 2019 to 1.2 million in 2023. New measures announced, guys. So 6 new measures have been outlined aimed at maintaining sustainable levels of temporary residence in Canada. Changes to program access. These measures include extending intake caps, introducing language requirements for post-graduation work permits, and restricting access to the spousal open work permits. Effective date. Well, these changes are set to take effect starting from November 1st, 2024. Now let's learn about these new measures, the changes and the updates one by one. New measures for international students in Canada. The Canadian government has introduced 6 new measures that will impact international students seeking to study in Canada. These changes, effective from November 1st, 2024, are aimed at managing the growing population of temporary residents while ensuring alignment with Canada's economic needs. The first one here is increased language requirements. International students applying for a post-graduation work permit will need to meet higher language benchmarks: CLB level 7 for university graduates and CLB level 5 for college graduates. Number 2 here is post-graduation work permit, means PGWP eligibility based on level of study. Starting November 1st, 2024, eligibility for the post-graduation work permit will depend on the student's level of study. Number 3 here is post-graduation work permit tied to field of study. Graduates from public colleges will be eligible for a post-graduation work permit only if their field of study is related to an occupation experiencing long-term shortages. The duration of the post-graduation work permit can extend up to 3 years for qualifying graduates. Number 4 here is master's and doctoral students subject to cap. Master's and PhD students will face intake caps on the study permits, which wasn't there before in the past, but now it will be, with 12% of the total allocation reserved for these advanced degree students. Number 5, provincial attestation letter, also known as PALs, for postgraduates. So master's and doctoral students will now be required to obtain a provincial or territorial attestation letter as part of their study permit application process. Again, this wasn't the case before, but now this will be the case. Number 6 here is reduced spousal open work permit eligibility. So the spousal open work permit will now be limited to the spouses and common law partners of students enrolled in doctoral and selected master degree programs, including certain professionals and pilot programs. Number 7 here is spousal open work permit restriction for spouses of foreign workers. So spouses of foreign workers will only be eligible for work permits if the primary applicant is employed in management, professional occupations, or sectors with labor shortages. The Canadian government anticipates these changes will result in issuing 300,000 fewer study permits and a reduction in 175,000 post-graduation work permits over the next 3 years. Now let's see, when do these new measures come into effect? So some of the new measures, such as restrictions on spousal open work permits, will take effect on November 1st, 2024. However, other measures will be gradually introduced in the coming months, with specific timelines yet to be announced by the government. New language requirements for Canada's study permit program. So the new language requirements for international students applying for a post-graduation work permit are now based on the level of their study that they have completed. University graduates, that means the students who study bachelor's, master's, or doctorate, means PhD programs, must demonstrate a CLB level 7. College graduates, that means the students who study diploma or certificate at a college level, must demonstrate a CLB level 5. These requirements will come into effect starting November 1st, 2024. Now let's look at sectors in demand in Canada with long-term shortages. While the government has not officially specified which programs will qualify for spousal open work permits or post-graduation work permits, it is likely that some or all of the following sectors may be included due to their long-term shortages. The first one is skilled trade programs. Next is healthcare, then construction, STEM occupations, and professional service workers such as lawyers and etc. During a recent live press conference, it was highlighted that 400,000 skilled trade workers are expected to retire by 2032, and there is a projected demand of 300,000 additional skilled trade workers. This shortage poses a significant challenge for Canada's economic growth, emphasizing the need of individuals with the right training to fill these vital roles. To stay updated on future changes in this or any of the other immigration areas, please do subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon so that you get notified every single time I post a new video. Now let me answer some of the generic questions that might arise or might come to your mind after watching my video or after you see or hear about this news. The first question here is, can I bring my spouse or common law partner to Canada on my study permit? Well, the rules surrounding spousal open work permits have tightened significantly. Previous changes restricted spousal open work permits to only the spouses and common law partners of students pursuing master's and PhD programs, as well as some undergraduate programs tied to occupations with long-term shortages. However, the announcement made by the government yesterday narrows spousal open work permit eligibility. So going forward, doctoral candidates will remain eligible to bring their spouses on the spousal open work permit, and master degree students are no longer automatically eligible. So spousal open work permit eligibility will depend on whether their field of study, that means master degree students' field of study, is related to occupations with the long-term shortages or not. Additionally, a broader change affects all foreign workers in Canada, not just international students. Spouses of foreign workers will only be eligible for a spousal open work permit if the primary worker is employed in management, professional occupations, or sectors with labor shortages. This marks a shift from the previous rule, where the spouse of any foreign worker in Canada could apply for a spousal open work permit without restrictions on the worker's occupation or job level. These new measures are expected to reduce the number of spousal open work permits by 50,000. Next question here is, why is Canada further restricting the number of international students? Despite a drop in study permit rates, the Canadian government is implementing further restrictions on the number of international students to address the high levels of temporary workers. The government had promised to reduce temporary residents to 5% of Canada's population, and current numbers have not aligned with that target. Minister Boissonnaud, who is the Minister of Employment, Workforce Development and Official Languages, and the IRCC Minister Mark Miller, also cleared and explained that the reduction in temporary workers does not signal a lack of appreciation for international workers. Rather, it reflects the changing economic landscape in Canada. Question number 3, and I'm sure one of the biggest question is that how do these changes impact current international students in Canada? Well, the recent changes may have several implications for current international students in Canada. First one here is study permit renewal exemption uncertainty. When the study permit cap was first introduced in January 2024, renewals were exempt from the cap. However, the latest announcement from RCIC has not clarified whether this exemption still applies, leaving current students uncertain about their renewal options. Number 2, impact on post-graduation work permits. Restrictions related to post-graduation work permits will affect applicants who submit their applications after November 1st, 2024. This means that current students planning to apply for a post-graduation work permit after this date may be impacted by the new eligibility criteria. Number 3, Spousal Open Work Permit limitations. There is currently no information on whether the new Spousal Open Work Permit limitations will apply to current international students. This lack of clarity means that students with partners may face uncertainty regarding their ability to bring their spouses or common law partners to Canada. Overall, these changes introduce several uncertainties for current students, particularly regarding renewals and work permit eligibility after graduation. So this was essentially the announcement. However, what to do now? So what to do if you want to study in Canada as an international student? Well, if you're considering studying in Canada as an international student, here are some key steps to take. First, stay informed. Immigration policies can change frequently at any time. Keep up to date with the announcements from the Canadian government regarding study permits, work permits, especially regarding in-demand sectors. Number 2, research in-demand sectors. Focus on studying in fields that are experiencing long-term shortages or are in high demand. While specific information on eligible occupations for post-graduation work permits is not yet available, sectors such as healthcare, construction, trades, STEM, and other professional degrees are likely candidates. Number 3, prepare early. Given the increasing requirements such as provincial attestation letters and territorial attestation letters for master's and PhD students, it is wise to start preparing your application as early as possible. This includes gathering all necessary documentation and meeting language requirements. Number 4, submit a complete application. With reported high rejection rates for study permits, it is crucial to submit a thorough and complete application. Ensure that your application does not raise any questions or concerns for the visa officer to improve chances of approval. If you need our help or any professional help with your study, work, immigration, business visa, or any sort of immigration-related services in Canada, please feel free to contact us at www.zestcanada.ca or simply go to the description box of this video and you'll find the links to book a consultation with me. I'll be more than happy to assist you with your immigration needs. So this is it for today, guys. Thank you for tuning in and see you guys next time in the next video.